All right, well, let's get to the lore. All right, well, let's get to the lore. He's expecting us. Ah! L-ads!
Working on it. What's taking so long today?
Let me change some stuff around before we get going. Since we're watching a video, let me do just chatting. Game theory? Yes, game theory. And then over here, we're going to do just live now. Fnaf night. Okay. All right. So we have to figure out where we are at.
End the torment.
I think we were about 10 minutes
books,
in.
11 games from the Rivals official merch that were released. Period of massive success and expansion. That one was Henry's creation, not his. Ifton's jealous admiration turned to hardened bitterness. A party world exists. It is mentioned in this at one point the franchise's one and seems like the recently Henry's doing this maliciously. He doesn't strike me as the type off yourself. You wouldn't. You would be stealing someone else's idea. Copy of his own. But
Wait, we
if
saw
these things
this.
are supposed to be cheap, generic ripoffs, why would
But I gotta go shower and feed my pets. Bye, Madeline. Then you will play all the games.
you be trying to rip off yourself? You wouldn't. You would be stealing someone else's ideas. So if Afton created Fredbear, there would have to be some rival franchise. The only other person who would likely be ripping him off? Henry. We've talked extensively about how the mediocre melodies are clearly Henry's design aesthetic. So it just has
Okay, yeah, we were right here. Okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. I won't be too long. Literally like 20 seconds. Don't worry, I'm just scooting the chair in. Nothing sussy baka going on here. Okay. And continue.
I don't think Henry's doing this maliciously.
Wait, we need an
Doesn't strike me as the
HD
type. He was like
4K.
the robots at the orders of someone else.
All right, 1080p
that was
it is.
running a rival restaurant franchise. But that's enough motivation to start Afton down a path of jealous rivalry, but also
Right.
begrudging admiration. As the Freddy Files Ultimate Edition says, it's important to revisit the beginning of Henry and William's relationship, so here you go. I think this is where it begins. Also, this is future Matt Pat here coming back to add this one in. Seems like the recently released
There's only 1080p. I think it's too old.
has backed up all of this speculation. I've had this timeline written for about a month now, but I've also been holding off a bit to see
Michael,
what wrenches
the
this
enemy
character
is your favorite? What is up with you and
on this
villains?
particular point, I gotta say, it seems like we might actually have nailed it. They actively call out the suspicious similarities to the main Fredbear crew. Quote from one of the pages: Ned Bear looks like an imitation, altered just enough to avoid copyright issues. I don't know about you, but that seems to imply that we were right on the money. Knowing all of this, at one point the franchises had to have merged. That's really the only way that you get Mr. Hippo from the rival franchise as part of the Fazbear crew. This also mirrors a lot of what happened in the real-life history of
He's
Chuck E.
not
Cheese, with
William.
two rival restaurants,
Well,
each with
Michael-
their own casts of characters merging to become one unified brand. Again,
Wait,
we've
Michael
gone into
Aft-
that
wait,
in detail
it's
with other
William-
videos, so
Michael
I won't remind
Afton?
you all of that here. But why would I call out the rival restaurant as being named Chica's Party World? Few things, actually. First, we know for a fact that a location named Chica's Party World exists. It is mentioned in the source code teasing sister location, so it is out there somewhere and
Sister
doesn't fit
location!
cleanly anywhere. Second, in the story of the Puppet Carver, Chica is very explicitly looped in with the book versions of Pig Patch and Ned Bear, implying that she started as a mediocre melody. Thirdly, her design just fits better with a theme of down-home country animals with southern accents playing the banjo and
Is
eating
Chica
with
an op?
bibs.
Chica
And with
is
her
an
being the
op.
headliner of the show with her name on the restaurant, it would make sense then that when the restaurants merged, she was the one that was added to the main cast of characters while all the other mediocres faded away. It's also why when Freddy's closes after William's killing spree, she's the one to branch back off into her old failed franchise and is therefore missing in sister location. A detail that's bothered me for years at this point. It might also explain why William decided to stuff his first dead kid into Chica. That one was Henry's creation, not his. Afton's jealous admiration turned to hardened bitterness. A bitterness that would only grow over the next couple of years as families continued to choose Chica's party world over Fredbear's. William just couldn't compete with the appeal of the robots. Eventually,
who created Chica's? No disc call? Nah. Bruh, I hit my knee while biking earlier. Now there's a cartoonish bump on it and it's bruised. Carol, why are we always getting hurt? We need to put you in a bubble. We're going to have to put you in a bubble, you know. Wait, so who created Chica's Playworld or whatever? Goblin, I need you here now. Right now! Sorry, I am here. Who created Chica's? I'm lost. I feel like he spoke really fast in the last 30 seconds. The entity? It's a separate location? Wait, so there's nobody that created Chica's Playworld or whatever? Not credited to. So how did Chica get there? Wasn't that William's creation? The entity brought her there? I believe how it was Henry because the mediocre melodies, right? The entity brought her there? So there's an evil entity to start with? If you scroll back, she's from Henry. Oh, so Chica started with the... No, Kelly joking with you? Oh, okay.
his restaurant would go bankrupt, only to get bailed out by, of course, Henry Emily. Another insult, another humiliation that William wouldn't soon forget.
Fuck this guy.
1979. Despite being bitter, Afton couldn't deny that what he left was a period of massive success and expansion. With the two franchises now merged into one, it was the best of both worlds. Afton's ideas with Henry's robotic expertise. The two men decided to launch...
So the two haters became lovers? Interesting.
Under a new name, Fredbear's Family Diner, a pizza chain that would eventually come to feature a mix of humans in performing suits as well as on-stage animatronics. They decided to stick with Fredbear as the headliner, considering the yellow bear was easily identifiable as a brand and because he was the original performing animal mascot. Afton appreciated that. This new restaurant would also see a mix of characters as the two franchises merged into one, with Pig Patch and Happy Frog performing right alongside.
All right, so they started off as enemies. You build them out as an insult. Then they became besties. And now they're doing this. Tessa, thank you for the heart me. And now they're doing this business together. Okay.
Fredbear and Bonnie. And as part of this one big...
Why the fuck do they have enemies to lovers arc? Business is business. I guess, but why would you want to start a business with somebody you hate? That's your competition.
Big Fredbear family, they even got...
That's like me being like, you know what? I hate Ninja. And then I dye my hair blue. And then I become besties with Ninja. The fuck? They get down to business with each other? I believe it. In the suits. Lore drop.
Got themselves official merch that were released, ranging from masks to magnets.
The crappy Mr. Hippo.
Ninja, did you know Tyler Joseph of 21 Pilots played a Fortnite tournament with Ninja? I feel like I did. And the suits is crazy. Ah! L-ads!
fridge magnet?
That said, not all the characters were winners. The reception to some characters was just mediocre.
No ad block? Bro, I pay for YouTube Premium, but I don't use it for stream. Not that I have anything bad on there, but just in case there's any information that pops up. So we're sticking with ads.
Away into the dumpster, storage units, and retro budget tech stores of lost nostalgia, waiting for their chance to step back into the limelight.
Bro, I will pull up my YouTube Premium and it'll be literally queso. That is all I watch. And the Vanoss crew back in the day. My top 3, Corey Kenshin, queso, and C-Boys, if you guys know who they are.
If and when a headliner went out of commission. Others, though, would fare much better, like a new Pirate Fox, as well as a blue guitar-playing variant of the yellow Bonnie Bunny. Ultimately, the franchise would get so big, it would spawn its own cartoon show, Fredbear and
We started that, and now I can never go back. I know, it's expensive, though. It's really expensive. It's stupid expensive.
Business was booming. In the end, Fredbear and Bonnie's popularity would be so strong that they would be able to support the Fredbear's Family Diner franchise all on their own, while also spinning off a new sister location dedicated to their friends. In 1983,
this is Hello Kitty Island Adventure? Yes, Vivid.
Pizza launched, giving a dedicated home to all this new supporting cast of characters. Chica the Chicken, Bonnie the Blue Bunny, Foxy the Pirate, and of course the headliner, a brown Freddy Fazbear.
Wait, why did Bonnie turn blue? I get Spotify and YouTube Premium hella cheap at my university. I actually always see that. Oh, are you in college? Here. Because rebranding. But that's like, that was William's baby right there. That was the start. It literally started with Bonnie the Bunny. How is he going to go from Bonnie the Bunny being like mirror image of himself and what he feels like? Spring Bonnie and Bonnie. Okay.
Business was good, and Afton was happy, mostly. It did bother him that the one original character that he created, the one that he himself played, Golden Bonnie,
we're getting there. I see now.
he got passed over for inclusion in that cartoon show.
Hold on. About time. Sorry, I've been on this stream. I've just been hard focused on R6. You're good, Vivid.
The only character in the roster of regulars to get ignored for the show, but other than that, things were going smoothly. He had himself a wife, 2 sons, a daughter, he had a thriving business, and best of all, he was able to learn the craft of robotics from the man that he both loved and hated, Henry. Together, they were constantly pushing the limits of what these characters could do. Because it was quick and easy, new characters introduced into the roster would be given a simple hand-sewn suit with 5 fingers that any performer could wear. Eventually, Henry would design one of his signature animatronics for that character, utilizing a divided mouth with either a hinged or sliding jaw design. This was the first generation of animatronics. But why stop there? Afton had big ideas. What if the animatronics weren't just locked to the stage, but could
At what
freely
point does he
roam
decide
the
to kill him
restaurant
in
and
the next
interact with
logical
kids?
step in
What
his
if his
business plan?
mascot suits could become animatronics? What if you could use more than just rigid metallic skeletons? Why not experiment with tubes and wires that would give the animatronics fluidity and flexibility while still providing structure? The
Bro's a
possibilities
psycho.
for this technology were endless. Afton fell in love with robotics.
He killed them all at the
He had
end.
started with a dream of bringing one simple singing bear to life, but with robots, he had stumbled across the tools that gave him the ability to control life itself. And thanks to Henry, he was practically speedrunning his way to an engineering degree. And while William wouldn't admit it out loud, one other thing that kept pushing him forward was the desire to beat his former rival, to prove himself smarter and more capable, to surpass the man who everyone else considered to be a visionary
Play Fnaf on
genius.
Roblox.
But pride cometh before the fall, and tragedy was about to strike.
Is FNAF on Roblox actually scary? Are you being for real, for real? Chatfield, thank you for the Herbie. Sydney would be disappointed. Michael Afton is my adopted son, by the way.
1983. Business was booming with 2 whole restaurant franchises running, Fredbear's Family Diner and the newly opened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Together, William and Henry had been able to take the hybrid suit idea and make it into a reality. They called their new invention the Springlock suit, and fittingly enough, it was symbolic of the partnership
Spring
between
Bonnie!
these 2 men. A human suit as designed by William that could become a freestanding Henry-style robot. But because it was still new tech with kinks to work out, the rollout was limited, restricted only to the Fredbear's Family Diner location. All of this meant that William was busier than ever. He didn't have time to be a full-time parent, so he designed a nanny cam system where cameras and speakers were hidden throughout the neighborhood, as well as in his youngest son's favorite toy, Psychic Friend Fredbear. I mean, plushy Fredbear. But since cameras just weren't enough to raise a kid, he also left childcare duties to his eldest son, Michael. There was just one problem with that. Michael was far from the best babysitter. He tormented his younger brother by jump scaring him with a foxy mask and constantly left him behind. William watched all of it from his cameras. Kids would be kids. Tomorrow was another day, after all. Except Michael's torment didn't stop. Bitter, angry thoughts would run through Michael's mind. Why did he have to be the one to take care of this whining crybaby all the time? It just wasn't fair. It was time that he...
So basically, Michael Afton is Roderick. Michael Afton rules. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I played Fnaf 4 on Roblox, and the jump scare actually scared the shit out of me. Wait, Fnaf 4 in general is scary. All right, let's continue.
Got even with his brother by playing the ultimate prank. A prank that just so happened to be on this crying child's birthday. He and his friends would take his scared little brother and make him do the one thing that he was terrified of doing, getting close to the animatronics. That would be embarrassing for the kid that was such an embarrassment to him. His brother squirmed, screamed, kicked, and fought, but just as they were putting that small, squirming boy up to Fredbear's lips, the mouth snapped shut. The sensitive spring locks inside the body had been triggered by the boy's movements, and they'd immediately clamped down. The wriggling...
We have the first death, which is... What was his name? Tommy? No, it's not Tommy Afton. It's William, Michael, and... No, he has a name. It's the little brother. We have already talked about who the name is. His name is unknown. I thought we said what we think his name is. Elvis? Oh, Evan. Right, Evan. So we think it's Evan Afton. The bite of 87. I heard the movement on the side. I went to the other door and boom, Bonnie. It's literally what happens to me. I had to... Bro, too many jump scares trying to learn how to play FNAF 4. But not sure his actual name. Okay.
Stopped. The boy went limp, but it was just a prank.
So the first one was... The first death is in Freddy's mouth, right? That was Freddy. Okay, so first death is in Freddy, and it's possibly we don't know his name, but it's Afton.
To be funny, the boy was taken to the hospital and was immediately given an IV,
mind.
Flowers and pills filled the nightstand next to his hospital bed. But the damage was too severe. He couldn't recover. As the younger brother's consciousness began to fade, he could hear Michael's last words, a small and flimsy apology. But his father, Williams, through the voice of the Fredbear plush, were a firm and committed promise to a dying son. You're broken. I will put you back together. This would not be the end.
Oh my God, his dad is a witch! Hello, Vivid. Welcome to the other side.
And no matter what, William's son would live again. It would just take time. Time that, right now, he just didn't have. His young son's heart flatlined as the boy faded into the inky unknown of the afterlife. In the aftermath of the tragedy, changes started happening around the restaurants. Kids were now
Michael Afton is Goblin.
Wristbands to prevent anyone
Michael
from
Afton
getting outside
is
without parental permission.
Osborne.
Any kid who approached the exit without permission would have to answer to the security puppet, a marionette on strings that could fly around on rails across the restaurant to stop kids in their tracks. It was William's idea, inspired by Michael constantly leaving the restaurant without his brother. In the wake of Fredbear's Springlock failure, all the hybrid suits were getting retired, locked away at the nearby Freddy Fazbear.
The OG
suits.
suits.
Yet another tough pill
The
to
golden
swallow after
suits.
all the hard work that he and Henry had put into them. William would eventually bury the boy's small body in a remote
But put me in
location
a
out
suit
in
and
the
let me
woods
get
right
locked.
alongside
It's
his
gonna
drive into and out of work every day. The death of this little boy sent the family spiraling. His wife, crippled with grief, was so distraught that all she could do was sit and watch TV. But his son Michael was far worse. Complaining complaining of seeing hallucinations of a golden bear standing outside of his window. The boy was so racked with guilt that he was convinced that he was being haunted by the ghost of his brother stuck inside the suit that took his life. The suit's three-toed feet digging into the wet earth. The words, "It's me," ringing through Michael's ears. Some nights, Michael would even go so far as to break out of his room to check the gravesite and ensure that his brother was still there. As for William himself, he disappeared into his work and his drinks. Junior's, the local bar, wasn't far from his son's gravesite. He found himself going there more and more frequently, spending longer and longer amounts of time there. The bar gave him a place to think, to remember, to reflect and stew on how Henry had stolen his idea for an animal-themed restaurant, how they'd cut his character out of the cartoon when everyone else was there, how Henry had humiliated him by buying him out of bankruptcy, and now there was his son. Henry had taken his son from him. The robotic part was the part that failed, after all. William ordered one more drink, but it was one too many. The bar turned him out and told him to go home. But William didn't go home. Drunk and angry, William raced back to the restaurant to give Henry...
Yo! William's driving a Volkswagen Bug. Are we for real? Come on now. Do better. Anyways. I was going to say...
Henry a piece of his mind, only to find someone else waiting. Henry's daughter, Charlie, locked outside of the building, bullies laughing at her through the window. Fine, some other problem to fix. But then Afton got an idea, a beautifully awful idea. This was his chance to get back at the man that had humiliated him all those years ago. Henry had killed his business, and now Henry's robotic suit had killed his son. It was time for William to do some killing of his own. Let Henry feel what it's like to have something you love get ripped away. While parties continued inside the walls of the pizzeria, William attacked Charlie in the back alley. It felt good. He felt free. The years...
Who's Charlie? New name drop. Henry's daughter. Oh, the one that was getting bullied outside the window? I missed it. I didn't hear her name. I thought that was Michael's daughter.
Of resentment and bitterness trapped in his heart, finally released in a moment of pure unapologetic evil. He would make Henry hurt like he hurts.
What if you can create your
All
own
right.
website and say, this is what I want? With Wix, you can.
Michael?
First up,
I meant
let's talk
William.
about AI color themes.
And in that
So William is actually a good guy. His life just started going to shit. And then Henry just literally made him feel worse and worse. And then his thing killed his son. And then pretty much Henry's taking everything away from William. Why did he not recruit another child to kill Charlie if he wanted Henry to hurt the same? He wanted to take his anger out, most likely. Yeah, he wanted to do it himself. That's the thing.
that moment, William became a killer. He dropped Charlie's lifeless body and drove home, forced to confront his family problems later that night, appalled, but also a little excited by what he had just done. Charlie's death would remain on the books as a random act of violence, and though Henry had suspicions about William, there was no physical evidence, nothing that could link him back to the crime. In the weeks that followed, Fredbear's family diner would close for good. 2 high-profile deaths around the restaurant with 2 grieving owners in such a short period of time was just too much bad press to handle. Besides, Freddy Fazbear's was still open, and it was the newer restaurant anyway. All the equipment from the diner, including the old yellow suits and security puppet, would get retired to that location.
The golden
And
suits.
there they would sit for 2 uneventful years.
Springtrap
The rest
Bonnie
of
and Golden
1983 and 1984 were
Golden
spent
Freddy.
quietly grieving. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the new cast of characters were a hit. Tragic memories of their yellow predecessors quickly faded. Afton kept a low profile and buried himself in work and research, quickly reaching Henry's level of engineering and even surpassing him. And while Henry slowed down to grieve, Afton kept
The
going,
puppet's my
even
fave.
starting his own company, Afton Robotics, for all those pet projects that were a little bit too experimental for the regular operations of the pizzeria. The first of these experimental projects was a secret workshop under his house, a veritable bunker, which allowed him to work while still monitoring his kids via hidden security cameras. 1985. 3. A passcode that served as a constant reminder of why the cameras were so important, why he was down there in the first place. This was all to fulfill the promise that he had made to his son, right? I will put you back together. This was for him. All for him, right? But cameras weren't enough. He needed to solve the runaway Michael problem. He had to keep him in the house. He couldn't have another one of his kids wind up dead inside of an
Michael's a little shit. Michael's a little problem. Send him to military camp.
animatronic suit. So why not run a little experiment on Michael? You see, all this work with Henry had gotten Afton to start learning more about life, robots, the human mind, and what a fallible machine we as humans were. Our reality is so easy to manipulate with a few sensory deceptions. Deceptions like sound. With just a few sounds, he had discovered that he could alter a person's vision. He could transform blank, smooth plastic robots into lumbering, twisted nightmares. Nightmares far scarier than he could create with actual materials. They would appear organic, rotting, putrid, terrifying. These would be his means of keeping his son Michael in the house where he belonged. Was it extreme? Maybe. But then again, this was the boy who had killed his son. He would make him sorry. And so Michael would grow up not only dealing with the memories of his own guilt, the hospital room, the pills, the flowers, the death of his brother, but also facing literal nightmares, illusions created by sound. Michael would never forget these either. Years later, as a security guard, he would still draw pictures of them inside of his logbook. But all of these extra projects meant that his home life suffered even more. He was an absent father and a non-existent husband, leaving his wife cold and alone.
Why do you hide inside your...
But William, okay, obviously there's no excuse, but William is doing this because of what Michael did. Michael is the encouragement of this abuse. It's all Michael's fault.
walls when there is music in my halls. All I see is an empty room. No more joy, an empty tomb.
And despite her repeated demands that he leave his office and engage with the family, he refused time and time again, leaving her no choice but to leave.
You burned down my house?
You call that a house? It was like a morgue in there. You need to see your son.
The baby isn't mine.
Well, how's this? I'm keeping the diamond ring.
And through it all, there was one lingering feeling. William wasn't done. He had gotten a taste of what it felt like to be unleashed, what it felt like to be free. Charlie's murder had unlocked something in him, and he wanted more. June 26th, 1985. Putting on the golden Bonnie suit, he lured children one by one to the back room of the pizzeria when no one was looking. At first, he was cautious. He would lure them with promises of cake and cookies. He told them that their dog had died. He would ask for
Bro's
help
the
with homework.
Candyman.
Susie was the first. You never truly forget your first.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
But where to hide the body?
Susie!
He couldn't sneak out. Someone would see him. He had to hide them in a place where they'd never be found and where they'd never leave the building. They had to be stuffed. Stuffed inside of the suits. No one maintained those things anyway except for him. And so Susie would go into Chica. Fritz, Jeremy, and Gabriel would come next. But it was easy. It was too easy. And with each little life he snuffed out, his lies got bigger. Their house was burning. They're just being kidnapped. Until the last one where all pretense was off. He let himself get violent. Too violent.
I'll just wait for him after school, throw a bag over his head, hit him with a shovel, and drag him into the back of my car.
The body of Cassidy was far more bloody and broken than any of the others. He'd let himself go too far. That one he shouldn't have killed. With no more active animatronics left, he shoved the body into the one suit that remained backstage. The long forgotten
Cassidy is Golden Fazbear.
yellow Fredbear, now broken and discolored with age. Broken, like Cassidy was broken, like his son was broken. Newspapers reported on this disappearance, naming the whole thing the missing children's incident. Police would even charge William with the crimes after finding security footage of the golden mascot suit luring kids to the back, but they couldn't convict him. They had
Golden Freddy shares the suit with Evan, Afton, and Cassidy. But Cassidy is still Golden Freddy. So it's both of them, right? Okay. So I'm not wrong. I'm just half right.
no bodies, and his face had been hidden behind the mascot suit the entire time. What they had was circumstantial at best, and so he walked away a free man. But Henry knew the truth. In these murders,
So what
he saw
FNAF
his
you gonna
daughter
play?
Charlie all over again. So he threw Afton out of the company and shut
we have
the
to start with
doors to
FNAF
the
4
old
and beat it.
pizzeria. Henry would keep the franchise quiet for 2 years. This would not happen again.
Notice
This
me.
could not happen again. How could he protect the kids? Finally, he developed a solution. He would implement an even more extreme security system in the form of new animatronics, toy animatronics, inspired by the toys that they had been selling years
Good luck.
ago. But these guys,
Thanks,
these were
River.
special. They were a new breed of robot with facial recognition ability.
Not the FNAF lore. Oh, we're digging
They're all
deep.
tied into some kind of criminal database so they can detect a predator a mile away.
All the original animatronics, now withered with age, were moved to the new location. With a plan in place, it was time to try once more. The year was 1987, and the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was making headlines in local newspapers. Headlines that just
Hey,
so
yo,
happened
why
to catch the
Chica
attention of
kinda-
William Afton. Freddy's was back.
FNAF 2
without
animatronics,
him.
toy animatronics
That
that
was
have
his
the
idea,
security
his
system, by the way.
character. Henry was, yet again, trying to cut him out of the picture. No. As long as these restaurants stayed open, William would always come back. Then he noticed the phone number to apply at the bottom of the article. $100 a week to apply call. Afton would go back, not as an owner or co-founder. He would go back in the one place that they would least suspect him, a lowly day shift security guard. And there it was, buried in the back of parts and services, mixed in with the old withered animatronics, was the golden rabbit. With the yellow security badge still on his chest, he used his crank to pull open the spring locks. It was time for Bonnie to give an encore performance.
Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right. From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. A position just became available.
1987, 5 more kids. He didn't know what felt better, getting back into the suit after 2 long years of waiting, or knowing how devastating this would be to Henry the next morning. He didn't even try to hide his crime this time, just meant more blood on Henry's hands. He'd failed to protect the kids again. The restaurant had only been open for a few weeks, but William was sure that this would get it to close. Good, if he
Chica
couldn't
Bad,
have
I was
Freddy's,
smashed,
no one
respectfully.
would.
Okay,
Whenever
Vivid.
a new pizzeria opened, he would be there. But as he sat in his bunker, something
Is it
else
still
started to
Michael's
linger
fault,
in
Prime?
William's mind. He had seen something strange. The old withered animatronics, they had been wandering around
What did I miss? It's still Michael's fault. Michael is still the start of all this.
on the building, spurred on by the puppet. It was almost like those old robots were trying to save the kids.
Have
Save
priorities
them? They
here?
couldn't, obviously, but still, how were they moving? It was almost like they had been given life somehow. Did he have something to do with that? The following day, the news would report a security guard getting bitten by one of the animatronics during the day shift. Was that bite meant for him? William's curiosity was stronger now than his bloodlust. He had to learn more, but how? There was no way he'd ever be able to get inside another Freddy's pizzeria. Heck, there was practically no way a Freddy's would ever open again. He needed to create something new, something brand new. He needed to create his own pizzeria.
Due to the massive success, and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment.
Circus Baby's Pizza World. This would be the place where he could continue his work. No longer just murdering, experimenting. He needed more kids, and he needed them alive. And knowing that he couldn't show his face on the restaurant floor, he needed a way of remotely capturing his victims and preserving them for his work. With that goal in mind, he designed a new breed of animatronic. Their endoskeletons fluid and flexible. He
Bite
equipped
of
them with
87.
sound lures that could mimic voices. They could isolate children. They could incapacitate and contain them with zero direct input from him. It was brilliant. He was brilliant. Far beyond the simple bars and wires of Henry's designs. And the characters he chose for this were uniquely his. His new roster wasn't going to be tainted by Henry's disgusting barnyard bird. Instead, it was back to his characters, his creations.
Sister location
Freddy,
animatronics.
Bonnie, Foxy, as well as 2 special ones. The first, Ballora, was an homage to the woman who left him. Now she would never leave him again. The second, the titular baby, was designed with his baby in mind, Elizabeth, his youngest child. She would always be Daddy's little girl, the one that listened to him, the one that obeyed, until the day that she didn't.
Daddy, why won't you let me play with her? She's so pretty and shiny. Didn't you make her just for me?
No! Aluik, thank you for the follow. Oh, I just saw that. My monitors for the purple app is so far away that I freaking miss things.
The day before Circus Baby's Pizza World opened, she disobeyed. She didn't listen. Left alone with Baby, she got too close. The animatronic ripped in half and swallowed her whole. A scared and confused child fading into eternal darkness. By the time Afton found her, it was too late. She was gone. He immediately canceled the launch of Circus Babies under the guise of a gas leak. But wait, as he sat there at the foot of the stage, he noticed that something was different.
Did he
The
follow?
eye color of the robot had changed. Baby had been built with blue eyes, but now they were emerald green, the same color as Elizabeth's. Was she in there? Could this all be connected to the free-moving animatronics that he had seen at Freddy's? He had to know more. His mourning turned to excitement. He had to return to where it all started. 1993. Pathetic.
Okay, hear me out. Michael Afton is still the one that triggered this. But yes, it's almost like there was something in William the whole time, right? But due to lots of L's in his life and then Michael setting it over, he became crazy. And then had a fiend for these animatronics, bringing them to life and like with souls. He still started it. Michael Afton still started it. Laura's here. Michael has started it from the start. He was trouble. He was a bad kid. He bullied his little brother. BRB, I'm going to tell him you said hell no. Michael Afton is still the starter of all this. Well, no, Henry is the starter by being the competition. Michael Afton is the pushover. There's no letting Michael cook. He's the reason. He killed his brother. Why are we letting Michael cook? I'm confused. Why are we always supporting these kinds of people? Bro was a bully. I'm confused. Oh my God.
This place was pathetic. Henry had clearly tried to reopen one final time with those old original animatronics from so long ago, but William's damage to the brand had been permanent. These things stank of death. They hadn't been washed in decades. But even if they had, nothing could wash away the stink of murder that haunted these halls. One night, then another, then another. William repeatedly snuck into the old broken restaurant to lure the living animatronics to him, one by one dismantling them, robbing them of their endoskeletons. The metal had to be the secret. It had to contain the remnants of life itself, but he had to know for sure. Leaping out of a room that was invisible to the animatronics programming, he dragged the oversized robotic skeletons back to his underground workshop.
You need to stream? Then get to streaming, Mr. Vivid Pog.
Back to where Circus Baby watched on with glowing, curious eyes. Eyes that somehow felt alive. Not knowing what else to do, William melted the robotic parts down. 5 animatronic endoskeletons reduced down to one silvery puddle of goo. Could he transfer this living metal to his own creations? He had to try. He picked up a syringe and filled it with the molten metal and injected the goo into Funtime Freddy's twisted, wiry endoskeleton. And suddenly, the coils came to life. Like snakes writhing in a pile, what had once been cold, lifeless metal moved and jolted on its own. He'd done it! He had unlocked the secret to life itself. Except something was clearly wrong. The movements were erratic. They were violent, angry. Baby didn't act this way. She had been calm, collected. This was clearly something else. Something mindless and frantic. Perhaps by mixing the souls and then portioning them out, he had created incomplete
Right, stream it will probably
beasts. He
be
would need
for
to
like
keep
an
testing
hour or
to
two.
truly understand it. He needed
I remember the
more
last time you
of
said
this
that,
remnant. As he
and it was like
searched
5
all of
hours.
Pizzeria one more time for any remaining scraps of metal, the ghosts
Not the FNAF
attacked.
lore.
His
Come
past
on.
victims come to collect their due, all led by Cassidy. The 5 lined up and blocked the door, and Afton's mind reeled. The scientific implications of this were incredible. Ghosts, real ghosts that he could see, all standing against him. But what could they do? What couldn't they do? He panicked as Cassidy approached. How do you stop something that's already dead? Maybe with the thing that resulted in their death in the first place.
Dude, this is hard because I talk once and I get lost. How do so by him injecting the metals, it brought out ghosts? Like, what did I miss to where now he's seeing spirits? He injects the metal of the animatronics from FNAF 1 location. Right, the OGs. He melts them down and put it into one animatronic, but why are we seeing spirits now? The metals contain the souls of the kids? Because that's where he stuffed them, right? He stuffed them in the FNAF 1 location animatronics.
He would get into his suit like old times. He would regain his power.
You're so tired? Vivid. Vivid.
Over them just like the
So you return to the location to research? Right, his main research location. Okay.
day that they died.
Oh my god.
He was the genius. He was the one in the suit. He was the one in charge. The spring lock snapped into place. Maybe it was his frantic movements. Maybe it was the leaky abandoned restaurant. Maybe it was just fate coming to collect its due. He didn't know. The only thing he did know was that his brain was suddenly filled with searing white-hot pain as hundreds of metallic pins and gears stabbed into his body from all sides. All he could do was collapse, blood slowly oozing out of the suit and pooling onto the floor around him. It couldn't end like this. It wouldn't.
I worked and it was hot. Me too, Vivid. I worked and it was muggy, but look at us. We're grinders. Dad's got me dead.
End like this. His work was unfinished. Unable to move, his only option was to survive, to live, to
23,000 likes, by the way. Let's flippin' go.
keep living. It took days lying in his own blood, but eventually someone found him. A security guard making a normal report. When he saw the animatronics torn apart in the middle of the party room floor, it caused him to file an immediate report of a break-in. An owner would have to come in and claim the damage. And who else would it be other than Henry? Hope jumped in Afton's heart. Henry would see him. They were partners after all. He would be the one to help save him, to get him out of this suit, to relieve him from this tremendous pain. Henry entered the secret room. His eyes fell on Afton sitting there in the pool of red, and Henry, saying nothing, turned and walked away.
This is just to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations, including this one. Nothing is being taken out before.
W. Henry, for real.
It's your own fault. Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representatives.
And so there Afton would sit, hanging on for 30 years, trapped behind the walls with an iron will that refused to die. Most of this is things that we already knew, stuff that's been established and re-established time and time again by the games. That said, there are two things that I absolutely have to address. The first and biggest is the placement of Sister Location, or more specifically, Elizabeth's death. To me, evidence in game seems to suggest that it was meant to come before the crying child's death in 1983. The biggest clue to this is that the crying child saw something. Remember what you saw is the phrase that's repeated over and over again by psychic friend Fredbear, aka William Afton speaking through a walkie-talkie in the Fredbear plushie's stomach. But what did he see? Well, I think we can tell based on how the nightmare animatronics are visualized. They have mouths in their stomachs, just like Baby ripping in half at the waist to swallow a kid. There's also the empty girl's room, one presumably left behind by a dead sister. And lastly, it explains why he's scared, and more specifically why Afton wants him scared. He needs his kids to stay away from the animatronics. He doesn't want them getting too close because the last time one of his kids got too close to a robot, his daughter died. That's then why he sets up the nightmares.
That's why the kids are not. That's why the sister's not in FNAF 4. Because she's already dead. So Evan dies after. Because they won't listen.
To scare both Mike and the crying child away from the animatronics from that point forward. That's why books like the Character Encyclopedia outright suggest that we play as the crying.
If you look in the room, you see a scattered Funtime Foxy plush. Holy peak, I'm playing right now. What are you playing?
Child in FNAF 4. That's why he has a nanny cam following the crying child everywhere, so he can keep tabs on his kids when they're out of his sight. He can't let another Elizabeth situation happen. The death of Elizabeth also gives William Afton extra motivation for killing. He's a grieving father. His daughter was taken away from him, so Charlie should die as well. He's lashing out at the world after losing his kids. And again, we know.
Wait! So William basically killed his own daughter, and then now he wants Henry to suffer? That's selfish.
That at least one of his children had to have died prior to Charlie's death, based on the mound of dirt that we see in Midnight Motorist. It also allows circus babies to open and close earlier in the timeline, which is how you wind up with Funtime Foxy appearing as Mangle in the FNAF 2 location. Basically, Elizabeth dying first has everything it needs to fit, except for the most important thing, the murder weapon. Why would Afton be building an animatronic with a giant claw in its stomach so early in the timeline? At this point, he just has no motive. It just doesn't make sense prior to 1983. At this point in the story, he hasn't killed anyone, and we know for a fact that the missing children's incident is 1985. So Elizabeth's death coming before any of those events just doesn't work, hence why I placed it where I did in the narrative timeline. Afton's death here is also a bit tricky. We know that he returned to the FNAF 1 location to break down the original animatronics in order to harvest their remnant. We know that he melts down 5 things to become one thing. Candy Cadet makes that very clear. So the 5 things are the 5 endoskeletons from the various animatronics. That would be totally fine if it weren't for one huge problem. On his 5th visit to the pizzeria, Afton gets spring-locked. So either the 5 becoming 1 starts in 1993, but then finishes 30 years later when he re-emerges from the wall to add the last endoskeleton to his pile, or he's had himself some reason to return to the original location after harvesting all the stuff that he can. It's not ideal, but it's the one angle that makes the most sense. William still wasn't back. Weird.
They're coming straight in. Trust me, I've got nothing.
Michael knew his father sometimes traveled for work, disappearing for days on end, but usually there was some sort of notice, a phone call,
Michael without a mask.
Post-it, something. It's not like Michael and his father were close, far from it, but as a household of 2 suffering men coping with years of tragedy and loss, there was at least some element of communication between the two of them. They were united by a name and a shared pain. This time though, things felt different. William had left nothing. His absence was longer. There were no check-ins, no updates, just silence. Something had happened. If there was one thing Michael knew about his father, it was that he had contingencies, safety checks, backup plans. His father was a careful and guarded man. He held his cards close to his chest, and as such, William had prepared him in the event that something like this ever happened. Normally, his father kept his home office locked, but in the event of an unexpected, prolonged absence, Michael had been instructed to enter his father's office and look behind an empty set of shelves mounted in the corner of the room. Rolling his eyes, Michael entered the office. Never fully understood how William was able to spend so many hours of his days locked up in here. There was just
Wait, so is this after William has died in the suit? An activity, yeah. And during sister location.
nothing to do. Most of this place was empty. He dragged himself over to the shelf in the corner, expecting to find an emergency contact list, a family safety deposit box. But what he actually found there was completely unexpected.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be.
The shelf swung open and revealed a giant industrial elevator, one that led straight down into an underground bunker. But that was impossible. Hidden inside his childhood home was a secret entrance to an enormous underground science lair? It didn't make any sense.
So he didn't open a place. He literally was under the house the whole time. Brother, what?
Seriously, it didn't make any sense. And yet, here it was, mapped directly underneath the floor plan of the house that he'd grown up in, lost his brother in, been tortured in. Michael thought that he'd known his father, a prideful, sad, angry man with petty, everyday problems, but clearly, he'd been living with a stranger this entire time. His father had secrets. Suddenly, the days of William being locked inside of his office made sense. He'd been here the entire time. Where was here, though? Was this Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals? The Circus Baby restaurant always did seem to be a deeply personal project for Father, a failure of his that cut unusually deep, especially after that first location had to be closed prematurely due to the gas leaks. After that day, Father really did seem to change, to lose himself even more in his work. Clearly, the entrance he had found was some sort of secret back way into the facility, one that required crawling through vents to navigate. His father had been—
Gas leaks? It's just pink eye. We're good.
been working here, but in secret. Why? And that's when he found her. At the end of the facility, Circus Baby, his father's pride and joy. Except something was different about her. She wasn't like the others. The way she talked, the stories she told. This wasn't just a robot. She was alive, somehow. And not only was she alive, she also felt familiar.
There is something bad inside of me. I'm broken.
Wait, I've seen a little bit of Sister Location gameplay. Isn't she like the one that guides you around in Sister Location? Yes.
Can't be fixed. Will you help me?
Was this his sister? William's baby girl? But how? Why? What was this place? He dug around some old files and found blueprints outlining the features of these animatronics. Storage containers, voice mimicking, parental tracking. And was that a child in Freddy's stomach? Was his father collecting and experimenting on kids? Were all the rumors that he'd heard throughout his past actually true? That the animatronics came to life at night? That there were murders done in all the pizzerias? That his father had somehow been the prime suspect in all of it? Suddenly, Michael's mind flashed back to his persistent nightmares throughout his childhood. Had he been experimented on too? Tears stung in his eyes as anger, fear, and confusion filled his body. His father's secrets were pouring out. William wasn't just a lame, overworked father. He was a monster, toying with life itself. Suddenly, everything clicked. He frantically looked around the room, blinking human heads on poles staring back at him. Green eyes, his sister. Blue eyes, his brother. Closed eyes, his mom. All just staring, expectantly. These were meant to be human. William was working down here trying to make believable humans, literally rebuilding the family that they had both lost. The small little girl robots with their British accents roaming the hallways of this underground facility suddenly took on a whole new context.
Hello in there. Is this the same person?
Were those meant to be his sister? A replacement for her? A clone? Was William building clones of his sister? They seemed to know him, after all, to react to his presence.
They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
He always did have a bit of a resemblance to his father. Michael's mind reeled as the reality of his world crumbled to dust. No, he had to get them out of there. If this really was his sister, heck, if any of these things were human, souls, whatever remnant of the humans that they once were, they needed to be rescued.
They always put us back inside. There's nowhere for us to hide here.
Led by the voice of Circus Baby, he marched through the now empty halls of the Funtime Auditorium. He would lead them. He would protect them. And finally, he would be able to forgive himself for the killing of his brother so many years.
Keep your cheeks clenched.
You are in the scooping room now. The scooper only hurts for a moment.
Scooper? That violent extraction arm? Michael had seen that one in the pile of blueprints. Something about heat rendering the magical silver metal inside useless.
Hello, Else. Oh, you are in the prime of it right now.
In reality, prior to getting himself spring-locked and put behind the wall, William's methods had become increasingly sophisticated. With a mechanized arm that could infuse new bodies with a soul, William could finally give and take away life. The only thing he needed were the bodies. But William wasn't the only one looking for bodies, as Michael was about to learn.
But if we looked like you, then we could hide. If we looked like you, then we would have somewhere to go.
Michael was going to be the hero to help these animatronics, all right. He was going to help the haunted tubes and wires of these animatronics escape, just not in the way that he anticipated.
The animatronic is entered? That animatronic is entered? In the window? I don't know. Am I supposed to know who entered is?
His sister had lied to him. Another game of pretend. The scooper plowed forward, digging its extraction arm into his body. As he heard his bones ripping through his flesh, Michael blacked out.
But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not.
Wait. Michael's an animatronic the whole time?
For the next several months, Michael's life was not his own. He was forced to comply.
Are you watching Fnaf lore? I am. Goblins making me learn.
With a tangle of wires and spirits that lived inside of him. His body felt like an
He was injected with remnant, which gave immortality.
overfilled balloon begging to burst as day by day, week by week, his flesh began to sag and discolor. He was a walking, talking, rotting corpse, alive, but wishing he wasn't. He was a puppet, a walking shell. And while he did his best to conceal his fate, there was only so much a man filled with robot spaghetti could do. The entity in his innards would eventually leave, but by that point, the damage had been done. His decaying flesh stank, turning him into a literal purple guy. But still, even with no bones, even with rotting purple flesh and begging to die, Michael continued to live. That silvery metal remnant injected by the scooper meant that he couldn't die. His anger also refused to die. What he had seen down there in his sister's location had rocked him to his core. His father had killed and captured dozens. His experiments had killed his sister and then tortured him throughout.
Did you say hear me out on Purple Guy? That is crazy work.
Throughout all his childhood, he was actively trying to build human replicants. He didn't know where his father was, but Michael knew that he was out there somewhere.
I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you.
Michael had to correct for the sins of his father. He had to make things right. Michael would burn Fazbear Entertainment to the ground. I mean, what else could you do when your skin was permanently purple? Michael's strategy was simple. He would apply for night security guard positions at the old defunct pizzeria locations. That way, no one ever had to see him or smell him during his shift. And all these old, shuttered locations did need guards. Teenage vandals and squatters were always looking to get inside these abandoned buildings, and yet no one ever really wanted to work an overnight graveyard shift unless they were practically out of options. Enter Mike. One by one, he would take on the job of security guard, changing.
You still hate Michael? No. He still got his brother killed, but he wasn't the start, which we know now. He still got his brother killed, which is messed up, right? We can't respect that. But he did not start the whole thing. His father still started it. His father started it by killing his sister.
His name each time to ensure that no one was able to follow his paper trail. Once inside, he could tamper with the animatronics and figure out how they worked, writing about his experiences in his security logbook. While there, he would listen to the old tapes where upper management awkwardly welcomed new recruits to their summer jobs, even though he was working there nowhere near the summer months. He heard the gory details of his father's franchise from the outsiders looking in, confused and afraid about what was happening in the walls around them. Sometimes, he would see his brother in the form of the Golden Freddy suit. It's me appearing on the walls.
Michael is the main protagonist in the majority of FNAF games, by the way. Mike?
Around him. Except now, there was something else there. He was no longer alone. Another angrier presence was also in the suit, as if two spirits were forced to share the same body. And Golden Freddy would attack him now. It was aggressive.
Cassidy and Evan.
Its vengeance wanted to lash out at anyone with the Afton name, anyone who wore a security guard outfit. Over time, Mike worked his way through the old restaurants, the original pizzeria, the bigger, better Freddy Fazbear's. He spent weeks there looking for clues as to his father's whereabouts, and each time at the end of his week shift, he would then set the location on fire. Remnant can't survive high temperatures after all, so burning away whatever spirit-laden animatronics that still existed inside seemed like a winning strategy. All this revisiting of his past, though, was causing the nightmares to begin again. Hallucinations that brought him back to his childhood. The guilt around killing his brother. His dreams were oddly mixed with the shrill phone calls of the security guards. But it would all be worth it in the end. The goal was to eventually stumble across the one location, the one job that
Fire kills Remnant because of the blueprints and sister location game you see.
would finally reunite him with his father. Little did Mike know that that day would come sooner than he expected. 2023, an advertisement came across Mike's TV. Fazbear Frights, a new horror attraction inspired by the awful crimes that occurred around Freddy Fazbear's Pizza so many years ago. It made Mike sick. People looking to make a quick buck off the tragedy of others, off his own family. This wasn't a joke or entertainment. Regardless, he had to be a part of it. If this team was combing through his family's history, they might stumble across something that could be useful. And if his father was truly still alive as he suspected, there would be no way that he wouldn't show up here. Maybe finally this could be the final chapter in his family's marathon of tragedy. Mike applied for the job and was immediately handed the keys. Years of doing this had taught him that security guards rarely receive thorough security checks. They also liked how creepy Mike looked. They thought it was a costume, on theme for the job. What little they knew.
Hey, glad you came back for another night. I promise it'll be a lot more interesting this time.
For weeks, there was nothing. But just as Mike considered giving up, he received the call that he'd been waiting for years.
You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one.
Could this finally be him? Sure enough, there he was. William inside his iconic golden Bonnie Springlock suit, only now it was green and decaying with age. And there they were, a small family of broken men finally reunited. It's been a long time, Dad. Mike had always struggled
Oh, my Atlanta. Hello, Bree.
with the phantoms of his past haunting him. But now, all the animatronics he'd encountered over the past months, hopping from pizzeria to pizzeria, suddenly sprang to life. Their burn
I look different. It's 25, you know. 25 really hit hard this year. You know? You don't know yet. When 25 comes, you'll understand.
burned faces haunting him as he tried to keep track of his father on the cameras. It would seem that William's...
I'm good. How are you, Bree? We're just learning about FNAF lore. Now pause that. I've missed you. Oh. You know, everybody's missed you, Bree. I love FNAF lore. Yeah, the goal is we're learning it. Goblin's making me learn FNAF lore. You are famous. You are famous in this chat. The goal is to learn FNAF lore, and then we're gonna play the games. We're gonna play all the FNAF games. We're gonna cook. How's work been treating you, Bree? Do you like it? Are you having fun? Your fave game is Sister Location? You love your new job? Good. That's good. That's good to love your job. I hate mine. I'm making bank. Let's go. That's good to hear. Are you getting a lot of time? Are you full time? No, just like weekend help pretty much. But if you're still making bank only off weekend help, that's gas. Yeah, right. I remember the family. Yeah. Oh, I guess you're probably telling GZ. Wait, so you're waiting too, right? So you're getting tips and all that fun stuff? Bree's working at Freddy Fazbear's. I get tipped out at the end of the night. I'm a busser. Oh, nice. So you get a portion of it. W's. That's so fun. I'm glad you like it. It's good to like your job. Makes it so much better. You're scared? Why are you scared, Pumpkin? Mostly at Buster's, sometimes Food Runner. Oh, so you be running around handing out Freddy Fazbear pizzas. Bree works at Freddy Fazbear Pizzas. Yeah, that's literally what I was thinking. You're always running around. Busy, busy, busy girl. Yeah, I actually am Springtrap. I believe it. The fog got my guys' help. I think they took your language before they got you personally. The fog's taking me help. There we go. There we go. That's the right way to say it. The fog got my guys' help. Wild. All right, are we ready to lock back in? Should we lock back in? Let's lock back in. I'm getting deep. I'm deep in on this. Full on backhand and then walk away. All right, Bree, lock in if you're staying.
Your presence had put
Lock
the spirits
in!
on high alert. Ultimately, they were harmless, more annoying than
Who
anything
knows?
else. But there was one that felt different from the others. One that was more than just a mere phantom. The security puppet. If he looked at the cameras at just the right moment, he could see it floating there through the halls. He could even see its reflection in the water pool down the ground. It would seem like he wasn't the only one there on a mission. While he was dealing with Springtrap, Michael assumed that this one was likely dealing with the spirits of this place, finally setting them to rest. Hopefully this means a happy...
Wait, so the puppet is a good? Puppetacy is good? I went away for a bit. Literally, what is happening? Tisk, tisk. So puppet's good. Michael finally found his father in Springtrap's body. Okay, so I'm gonna skedaddle because I have to be up at 6 a.m. Bye, Bree. We missed you. Hope you're doing well, and I'm glad you love your job. And you're having fun and making bank. Charlie is Henry. Emily's daughter, remember. Good night, Bree. So Charlie is Henry. Charlie is the puppet. That's the puppet's name. Goon Night. That's crazy. So Charlie is the puppet's name. Charlie is Emily, which is Henry's daughter that William killed. Puppet backwards is Charlie. No, Charlie. Her last name is Emily. Her name's Charlie Emily. Their last name is Emily, bro. What a lame ass last name, not gonna lie. I'm just kidding. If anybody has the last name Emily, you're goated. What? I'm just being honest. We're honest over here. Okay, so puppet is Emily, or is Charlie, which is Henry's daughter. And Charlie's goal is to free the souls from all the animatronics. Bottom 10 names ever. I agree, Kill. Yes, to put them to rest. Okay.
Happier day for all of us, Mike thought to himself. And in that moment, he felt the air around him release, like pressure being let out of a bottle. The building sighed, as if 5 spirits had finally been allowed to move on. He had the sense that his brother was a part of them. He rigged the wiring inside the building to misfire, and the dry, desiccated walls erupted in flames. It is finished.
Wix gives you the power of AI to build the website you need. With full business.
Except it was not. Somehow, through sheer force of will.
Okay, wait, hold on. I gotta go to the bathroom. Pause! All right, ready? And lock in.
Afton remained. He had survived, and Mike would need to find a new way of finishing off his father. Luckily, the solution would present itself.
So Michael Springtrap survived the flames.
Later that year, not from Mike, but from another victim that had been left in his father's wake.
We're talking about becoming a Fazbear Entertainment franchisee, restaurant ownership and management, something almost anyone can do with a limited degree of success. You are now the face of the newly rebranded Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Fazbear Entertainment as a brand had been closed for years. William had been stuck in a suit and a wall. The only person who legally could bring the franchise back was Henry. But he largely pulled out of the franchise around the time of his father's
Pizzeria Simulator, one of my faves. Springtrap backwards is Hello Kitty Island Adventure. We're continuing on.
Something was up. Surely this had to be some kind of a trick, right? Mike, doing what he did best, applied for a franchise and immediately got the job. There was just one thing out of the ordinary. Paragraph 4.
If you are playing this tape, that means...
Hold on. This is confusing because how is Michael... Hello, Foxy. How is Michael getting these security jobs with Henry knowing that Michael is William's son? How is this boy just sneaking past like this? He is searching for them, and you'll figure it out soon. If you're playing this tape, that means that not only
have you been checking outside at the end of every shift, as you were instructed to do, but also that you have found something that meets the criteria.
I might figure this out, but me asking questions, I feel like it's gonna help answer them. You know, if I keep that out, like if I put it out there, it's gonna help. I can't sit here in silence the whole time. I gotta ask questions.
Criteria of your special obligations under paragraph 4.
No employment contract he'd ever signed required him to keep special lookout for independently moving animatronics outside the restaurant. Now he knew something was up here. Henry was luring them all back. Rather than trying to go to them, like Mike had done for years, Henry was doing the opposite. He was putting them all under the same roof. He was finishing them off for good. Mike knew this wasn't meant to be a restaurant.
Henry and Michael are working together.
It was meant to be a
Lore!
prison, a containment vessel, a locked box meant to trap them all in so they could finally end the madness. It took a few nights, but eventually everyone was there. His father, the puppet, the robot spaghetti that had once violated his body, and his sister, now hopelessly devoted to serve the man that had once gotten her killed. It was time. He had been instructed to seal the doors and leave, but while he locked everything down, he didn't move on. If this was truly meant to be the end, if the remnant needed to be washed away, he needed to be a part of that.
This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you, although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be, and to you monsters trapped in the corridors.
So Henry knew that hiring Michael would want to end this, knowing that Michael would also want to end with them. Since my boy is immortal.
Be still and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace and perhaps more waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole.
Talking about William.
Devil waiting, friend.
And with
Damn!
the Afton legacy died.
My boy Henry just mic dropped on William. Sheesh. I low-key got goose nuts. AKA goosebumps.
With all of them trapped inside of a literal...
Can you pause it more? I can almost watch it. You think I ain't gonna pause while we're watching this? You'll only need the more for up to FNAF 6, so when the next games are mentioned, just ignore them. So I only need the lore for up to FNAF 6.
box. As the flames danced around the office, Mike, for the first time in decades, was happy. But William wasn't gone yet. Although the darkest pit of hell was open and waiting for him, something or someone wouldn't allow him to move on. Instead, he found himself locked in moments from his past. The pizzeria, his son's room, his underground bunker. It was as if his brain's neurons were all firing at once, overloaded, mixing and matching all his biggest fears, regrets, failures. What was this place?
Say William's hot?
He called out into the silence.
Foxy, thank you for the follow.
Then they started coming. Without warning, animatronics, both new and old, began to jump out at him, bite him, rip him limb from limb. The pain was immeasurable. Make it stop. Make it stop. William, for the...
Wait, so all the animatronics are attacking William? And William is begging Mike to help him?
first time long...
William plays as security in Ultimate Custom Night in this game. This is canon, is a good game, and yes. Thank you, Foxy.
For death, an end to this torture. Just as it felt like he couldn't take it anymore, everything was quiet.
Bro's getting a taste of his own medicine.
The world had been reset. There was a brief moment of quiet, and then the onslaught began again. Dozens of faces from his past all focused on him. A waking nightmare that he couldn't escape from. More pain, more ripping. It was his own personal hell, but why? Why couldn't he just die? And then he saw them. A group of characters he never thought he'd see again. Those
Henry's
stolen characters that had started everything. The mediocre melodies. It had all started to go wrong once they showed up. Once Henry had made them. But mixed in with their obnoxious southern drawls, William heard something else. It was barely a whisper, but he could just make out the words.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here. I will keep you here. No matter how many times they burn us.
That voice. He knew that voice, but from where?
Greetings from the fire, and from the one you should not have killed.
The one he shouldn't have
Chica!
killed. William thought back. He'd done a lot of awful things, but there was always the one that stood out. Not Charlie, his drunken act of revenge. Not Susie, his first true murder. No. Instead, it was the one that he had lost control with. The one that he had broken beyond repair for no good reason other than because he could. The one that he'd stuffed inside the golden bear that his partner used to wear. Cassidy. They were back, and now they were trying to punish him, to make him suffer like he'd made them suffer. It was almost like William and Cassidy's souls had been locked together, fused by a collective rage and spite, each refusing to...
Cassidy's keeping him in limbo hell of ultimate... Magic mentioned GZ, where are you? Magic mentioned Limbo, the Punisher.
Move on. But while Cassidy was so focused on taking revenge, they actually did the one thing that would be the downfall for so many others. They kept William alive. Even though fire should have destroyed the remnant that was coursing through his being, Cassidy kept William breathing, paving the way for his escape. William's will was so strong, his soul so powerful that he managed to put a part of himself inside the circuitry that housed the spring-lock suit. And there, his consciousness lay, inside a single circuit board, waiting for someone to find him and set him free. A person that no one would suspect. You might have noticed that I was vague about the dates, and there's a good reason for that.
Ignore this? So what? Is that the end of the lore that we need? Magic mentioned. You can play the games now? So it doesn't... Wait, I'm confused, but don't we have to learn about what happens after William is now a circuit board and gets put somewhere else? Fuck, I feel like we were just cooking. All right, so we start with FNAF 4.